so this week there's tons of science and lots of information and data here at AGU, and I want to talk a little bit about getting that knowledge to action. And so does anybody know who this is? I'm going to use this lens. Anybody? Buckminster Fuller, that's right. Anybody heard of him before? Yes! All right, good. So he was known as Bucky, commonly born in the late 1800s. He was a comprehensivist, a comprehensive anticipatory design scientist by his own title. He dabbled in a lot of different fields. He considered himself a futurist. And so when he was 32, he was jobless, broke, had no money. He had a wife and child, and he was contemplating suicide because he needed to get the insurance money. And he decided, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take the experience that I have, and if that can help anybody else, then that's a good thing. And so he set out on a lifelong experiment of himself to see what one person could do to kind of change the world and make humanity and increase the quality of life for people. And so he called it Guinea Pig B for Bucky. And so, it was all about just trying to improve things. And so kind of the outcomes of this experiment, where he wrote over 30 books, filed 26 patents, really popularized a lot of terms like spaceship Earth, synergy, tensegrity, grunch, all kinds of really interesting things. Invented a geodesic dome, which you can see here, and many other things. And so he's still really relevant today, even though the things he was talking about were in the 30s and 40s and 50s. But thinking of the Earth as a system, thinking of prefabrication as a way to bring things cheaper and more efficiently, and also that ephemeralization, kind of the Internet of Things. And so I wanted to show this picture of my cousin's fanny pack. But actually, my dad, he's a mathematician, computer scientist guy, and he was talking about this when I was a little kid. And of course, when you're a teenager, you start to really ignore these things, and I think I repressed it for years. But then as I got a little bit older, it kind of really stuck, and so I think I really got into that mind of the service to humanity. And so I joined Develop, which is all about kind of feasibility studies, applying that Earth observations, working with local communities, doing that kind of experiential learning and really trying to get in there. And so through that, I learned that local communities have so many great needs. And so kind of bringing the science down to the local level is really important. And there's just a lack of awareness of what the data is out there. If they know where it is, they don't know how to use it, they don't know how to access it, they don't really have very much funding, and their things go across all kinds of disciplines. And so back to Bucky, I want to talk you through 3 of his quotes and kind of what I take for them and what you should take from them too. And so, back to Bucky. So the first quote is kind of, thinking about the spaceship Earth. We're not going to be able to operate our spaceship Earth successfully nor for much longer unless we see it as a whole spaceship and our fate is common. It has to be everybody or nobody. And so, this really kind of resonates with me because I think of it means that we need to collaborate. We need to understand the Earth as a system. That's how NASA approaches it, especially. And we need to, really apply that technology for the greater good. And so my motto for this is, make Spaceship Earth great again. Masiga. And so for the next quote, he was really excited about how ingenuity will happen at the last minute when it's needed. And so he said, if you're in a shipwreck and you're floating there and a piano top comes floating along, you might be a fortuitous life preserver, but that doesn't mean that all life preservers should be designed in the piano top shape. And so he thinks that, society is hanging on to a lot of piano tops. And so, just in accepting what yesterday's kind of new invention was doesn't mean that we need to kind of keep doing that. We need to find kind of those problems. And so I say that means we need to make sure we're innovating. We need to look for efficiencies. We need to break the status quo. And so think about, what are the piano tops in your work? What are the piano tops in science? Is the way that we're doing science a piano top? And this is my attempt at a little target on the piano top. So search and destroy the piano tops. And so for the third quote, something hit him once when he was thinking about one person could do. He said, the Queen Mary goes by, and it's this giant ship, and it has this big rudder in the back, and on the rudder there's this tiny little thing called a trim tab. And the trim tab, you just turn it a little bit, and that builds a pressure that actually turns the whole rudder, and that turns the whole ship. And so he said, just as an individual, you can be that trim tab. If you're doing things dynamic and mentally, then you can step up, and that society thinks is going past you, but you can put your foot out, and that causes change. And so like John said, the torchbearer, he said, called me trim tab. And so, to me that means experiment, try new things, don't doubt that you can cause change and drive change, so be a trim tab. And there's a lot of different trim tabs that are doing this, working with local communities. So NASA Develop, Thriving Earth Exchange, and many, many others, and there's many that aren't on this slide, but join them. And so to kind of wrap it up, the 3 lessons are: be a good astronaut of Spaceship Earth, get rid of those piano tops, and be a trim tab. Thank you.